Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 439, Wednesday, May the 23rd, 2018. Thank you so much for tuning in. Well, of course, Wednesday, you know what happens on Wednesday. I take out the trash and I eat chicken. This Wednesday, it's no different. I'm taking out the trash. I'll be having chicken. Let's get right to it. Well, for those of you who did not check out that link yesterday that I posted, Joe DiGenova on Fox News. You gotta check it out, my friends. So I'm gonna put that link back in there, right in the very top description. I'm just gonna put the link right in there so you can watch it. The video, it's like about a 9-minute video, but really you only need to, you can move your cursor to like the 7-minute and 20-second mark. And then within 10 seconds you will hear Joe DiGenova call Rod Rodentsteen Rodentsteen very clearly. The first time I heard it, I about fell out of my chair, started laughing. I said, I know he didn't just say that. I backed it up. I listened again and again. After 3 or 4 times, it is crystal clear. It's crystal clear the first time. It catches your ear, right? So he does call Rodentsteen. And of course, Joe DiGenova knows exactly how to pronounce that name because he pronounces it correctly all throughout that video and many other videos that you can watch with Joe DiGenova. So this now convinces me that DiGenova does watch my videos. Now, I first suspected this about a month and a half ago because what happened was for goodness, a good 4 or 5 months, I was constantly talking about the fact of the 99-page FISA court document written by Judge Collier, proving that there were private contractors accessing the NSA database. And I was saying, man, this is it. This is smoking gun. This is the biggest crime of everything we're talking about. And here is the FISA court judge admitting it. You know, why isn't Hannity talking about it? Why isn't Limbaugh talking about it? Why isn't Fox? Why isn't anybody, Carlson, anybody? Nobody's talking about it. This was posted up on August of 2017. People on the internet been talking about it, but nobody in cable news or certainly not in network news or mainstream media would ever talk about it. Even the guys that we believe are on our side. So I'm thinking, what are these people thinking? Well, finally, about a month and a half ago, I'm watching a video and Joe DiGenova brings up the 99-page FISA court document by Judge Collier and starts talking about it. Then, about a week ago, Laura Ingraham has on her show DiGenova and Sidney Powell. And Sidney Powell goes into deep explanation and is telling Laura Ingraham. And Ingram's jaw is on the table. She's like, what? Private contractors accessing the NSA database? As if it's just breaking news. We've been talking about it since August of 2017. So, I do believe now, and after hearing DiGenova call Rodentsteen, and it's clear as a bell, my friends. Watch it. You will laugh your asses off. So I'm providing the link to you right there. Click on the link. It'll take you to that video. It's DiGenova is on Fox, and I think it's Hannity. And there's, you know, it's Hannity and Sarah Carter. Hannity, Sarah Carter, and Joe DiGenova. And you get about 7 minutes, 20 seconds into the video, DiGenova is going off. You know, he's on a rant. And his face is getting red, and he's getting all angry. And Sean Hannity is getting ready to cut him off. And just before Hannity cuts him off, a couple seconds before that, DiGenova says, Rodentsteen, you gotta check it out, man. So if you're watching, Mr. DiGenova, we love you. Thank you so much. You are a true freedom fighter, and it's great to have you among the TowerGate community. I know you're a busy man. You probably don't have time to watch all my videos and watch the entire length of them, but obviously, I believe Mr. DiGenova has been tuning in as he's been trying to get information. I don't know if it was my talking about the 99-page FISA court document that got him onto that, or where he exactly learned about that, but it doesn't really matter. The fact is, he's out there with the courage to talk about it, and he's now brought it into the mainstream, and I expect in the next couple days, if not next couple weeks, everyone will be talking, in addition to everything else, about the 99-page FISA court document. Check out the video. It's hilarious. Click on the link. Alrighty. As obvious in the last couple days that actually in the last 2 weeks, I would say, that there are so many holes now in the dam that have become massive gushers coming out of those holes that the deep state dwellers, the perps, the criminals, have run out of fingers to plug all the holes in the dam that are now leaking, that can no longer stop the flow. And the whole thing is coming down, my friends, right in front of our eyes very quickly. And remember, it's going to be bad, but it's going to get really, really bad, just as I've been telling you for months and months and months, that eventually when the lying media can no longer deny the obvious, the truth, they will turn. They will turn and break out the long knives, and it will be all over the Washington Post, the New York Times, CNN, ABC, MSNBC, the whole 9 yards, my friends. They will turn. They will turn and stick the knives in. They're not going to miss out on the biggest story of the century. They've been trying to lie about the biggest story of the century, but once they can no longer lie about it and the truth is out, they have no choice. And so that is when the whole thing comes crumbling down. And we are very close to that point. We're starting to see the media now. Those stories ran in the Times within the last 2 days, the Washington Post, even some of the far left-wing sites. Mother Jones and others are now starting to realize that they can't hold it back anymore. And for a lot of these media organizations, journalists at their organizations, particularly BuzzFeed and Mother Jones, were a part of all of this. And many of these media people are going to be outed as having been part of this scam and this crime. Keep watching. We are getting there. Now, so much to cover today. It will be 2 videos. Now, the first video will be just my normal TowerGate stuff that I talk about, the breaking news. That will be uploaded Wednesday morning, probably somewhere around 10 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, as usual. Then there's going to be a second video that'll come up probably around 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and that video is going to deal primarily with one major topic, and that is the origins of the Russia collusion thing. And this is based on an incredible piece written by Cheryl Atkinson, where she lays out a timeline of events, but she goes all the way back to 2011. And so something we've never really focused too much on is what really started this whole Russia collusion tale. What actually was the very beginning of that? Because here on TowerGate, we start with pretty much the beginning for us is late fall 2015, when we learned that they're private contractors accessing the NSA database. And then we kind of move forward from there. Cheryl Atkinson, and we don't really question too much the Russian narrative. We just figured, well, there's a lot of reasons they throw out the Russian narrative. But she actually goes in and digs deep and finds the origins of where that came from. It's fascinating. And so we'll talk about that in a second video. But for now, we're going to get on with the normal news of the day, which is bombshell. Okay, so let's get started. Well, the biggest story you guys are probably hearing about today is the recent discovery of from the investigators for the Homeland Security Committee, where Ron Johnson is the head of that committee. Now, apparently, some of his investigators have stumbled on to smoking wiener. I'm talking smoking wiener, my friends. Smoking wiener evidence that proves that Clapper and Comey and Brennan were, and McCabe and people over at the DOJ, including Silly Sally Yates, were the ones who cooked up the entire plot to have Comey brief Trump on the pieces of the dossier story, only so that they could provide the news hook for CNN to release it. We now have the smoking wiener that is going to blow this thing wide open. And these emails were discovered by Ron Johnson's investigators looking through thousands and thousands of emails that they've recently received. And what it shows is the FBI discussing the briefing for the dossier CNN release. It proves Comey doing this briefing with Trump was a setup. Let's go through this. This is just a tiny snippet. There's much more, which is all going to come out. And you can read about it if you want further reading on it. Just type in Last Refuge Ron Johnson Sensitive Matters Team. So this is a new term that's now going to pop up and be very common in the next couple of weeks. Sensitive Matters Team. Now, it appears that within the small group, we had another group known as the Sensitive Matters Team. And the sensitive matter was the dossier. And what they were working on was a way to get it out. But CNN and other media organizations couldn't get it out because they didn't have a reason to get it out. And they were worried about legal liabilities from Trump. So anyway, what they had to do is they had to create the right situation that would allow these media organizations to dump the dossier. So as an attempt to orchestrate the coup on Trump. And so this is just a few samples of the email activity and the activity that was going on leading up to the release of that, starting with January 6th. Remember, BuzzFeed published it on the 10th. I believe that CNN came out and also on the morning, CNN came out and talked about it, about the meeting taking place where Comey briefed Trump about the fact that the Russians had extortion or blackmail material on him, and that this type of thing, and that opened the door. That was the news hook for CNN to do the story, and then BuzzFeed followed up very shortly after by releasing the entire dossier. It was all set up by this group known as the Sensitive Matters Team. Now, Ron Johnson has sent a letter to Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, the FBI director, demanding to know exactly who all the members were on this Sensitive Matters team. Now, we already know some of them because they're in the email chain. So, let's go ahead and go through this very quickly. On the morning of January the 6th, 2017, FBI Chief of Staff Rybicki sent an email to the Sensitive Matters group stating that the director, Comey, is coming to headquarters briefly for an update from the Sensitive Matters team. Then that same day in the afternoon, January 6th, Director Comey meets with Trump to brief Trump on the salacious parts of the dossier. Then, on January 7th, 2017, Comey sends an email to the Sensitive Matters group stating the following: I said there was something Clapper wanted me to talk to the president-elect about alone or in a very small group. I then executed the session exactly as planned. And I said that the media, like CNN, had them, and he's talking about the dossier or the memos that made up the dossier, and were looking for a news hook. So January 8th, 2017, 2 days after the Comey briefing, former FBI Director Andy McCabe wrote in an email to top FBI officials, Comey, Rybicki, David Bowditch, and Michael Corton, with the subject line on the email, "Flood is coming." That's obviously a phrase, a code word, letting them know that they that they had passed the story over to CNN, letting them know. So he's letting everybody know, okay, we've now fed CNN the story that Trump briefed, or that Comey briefed Trump about the salacious parts of the dossier. So now you can go ahead and do the story. You can now do the story, and then BuzzFeed will follow up with dumping the dossier. This was all planned out, and this is the smoking wiener. So McCabe sends the email with the subject line, "Flood is coming." In the body of the email, it says, CNN is close to going forward with the sensitive story. The trigger for them, CNN, is they know the material was discussed in the brief and presented in an attachment. Then 47 minutes later, Andy McCabe then emails across the street to Deputy Attorney General Silly Sally Yates and her assistant Matthew Axelrod. McCabe uses the subject line to that email as news. How did the FBI know CNN and other outlets had obtained copies of the memos, which were, of course, the dossier? Who told CNN about the meeting that provided the news hook? which set it all in motion? Well, we already know the answer to that question. The second question is it was Tapper and Clapper. Tapper and Crapper. Clapper and Tapper, however you want to look at it. Jake Crapper and the unwitting idiot, James Clapper. We know that. So here you have the smoking wiener, showing exactly how they planned, coordinated, directed, and controlled that scheme. This group of individuals known as the Sensitive Matters Group, and the sensitive matter is, of course, the dossier, and more importantly, how to get it out. They've been trying to get it out, but everyone was afraid of the legal liability. And so they were telling Clapper, and they were telling Brennan, and they were telling Comey, man, you want us to put this out, you want us to run this, but we can't do that. It puts us in huge legal liability. We need a news hook. So they all got together in the Sensitive Matters team and said, how can we create a news hook? And obviously, Brennan came up with the idea, sold it to Clapper. Clapper went and told Comey, this is what you're going to do. This is how we're going to give CNN what they need to release it. And then BuzzFeed is going to drop it like a rock as soon as CNN reports. This is the step-by-step layout of exactly how it happened. It's perfectly clear. It is a big, fat, red, smoking wiener. Game's up. It's over. It is over. I imagine when John O'Brennan read this headline this morning, he probably is now contemplating taking that cyanide capsule. Yes, that's right. John Brennan probably right now sitting in a hot bubble bath with a glass of champagne, reading Cicero, contemplating what he should do and when he should do it. He's got that cyanide tablet right there by the bath, wondering at what point he should swallow. Yes, he's sitting there sipping on that champagne, reading Cicero, reflecting on his life, thinking how it could have been so much different had the rotten Reverend Clinton not called us all a bunch of deplorables. Had she campaigned in Wisconsin, had she not dropped the ball, he would be CIA director for the next 8 years, perpetuating his madness in criminal activity, advancing the Muslim cause, of which he is a dedicated loyalist. So now, there we have John O'Brennan sitting there in the bath, in the bubble bath, Mr. Bubble by his side, sucking on that glass of champagne, probably farting and biting the bubbles to entertain himself, deciding on when to take that cyanide capsule. It's over for the perps. Ron Johnson, Christopher No Shit Sherlock Ray, is probably shitting bricks right now himself. He too might go over and join John O'Brennan in the bubble bath. He might have his own cyanide tablet. That's what we're looking at. Now, let's move on. Michael Caputo was on Fox News last night, Laura Ingraham, and he said that he was approached and essentially offered a bribe by an agent provocateur. Boom! Another bombshell. So now we're learning, which we already assumed, that there were probably multiple people involved, agent provocateurs, probably a patsy or two, probably a spy here and there, an informant here and there. They had this thing loaded up for bear. So Michael Caputo says he's checking with his lawyers to find out what he can and cannot say about the encounter or encounters he had when someone apparently tried to bribe him. Man, you cannot believe the incompetence of the deep state. Maybe it was desperation. I don't know. But once they did all these things, they were never expecting the Rotten Reverend to lose. But once she did lose, they had to go back and try to cover their tracks. And it's their efforts at the cover-up, just like in Watergate, that's going to be their undoing. As I told you yesterday, 13 House Republicans have unveiled a resolution officially calling for a second special counsel to investigate the highest levels of the DOJ and FBI, and they want an immediate end to the Mueller campaign. Now, believe me, the Mueller thing should be over. The Mueller thing should be over. That's why I said weeks ago, go on offense. Prove what actually happened. And once it's proven what actually happened in 2016, the entire reason for the Mueller investigation is kaput. There's no reason for it. And in fact, Uncle Bob himself becomes a potential target for criminal liability because in his investigation, so-called investigation, he has come across all of this. He's got all the documents. He knows everything that happened. He probably knew it before he started, but now he certainly would know, and he's never made any effort whatsoever to prosecute the real crimes. He's been participating in covering up the real crimes, which makes him an accomplice in the criminal conspiracy. Maybe maybe Uncle Bob the Executioner, who looks an awful lot like Carl Malden, maybe he'll go over and join No Shit Sherlock Christopher Wray and John O'Brennan in the bubble bath. Is there enough cyanide to go around? The IG report is going to expose crimes regarding the Wiener laptop. Huma, Hillary, Cheryl Mills, McCabe, and Comey are all going to be caught up in what the IG has learned from examining the Wiener laptop. And we can assume that other people have examined the Wiener laptop. But it is clear that they are going to find that there were, as the IG Horowitz, the custodian, the cleanup man, is going to, and you wouldn't want to clean up after this mess because it involves a Wiener. But they are going to find exactly what we know exists. Thousands of State Department emails, including over a dozen highly classified emails sent by Huma to the Wiener laptop. All these people are in deep, deep kimchi. The New York Times. Clapper is now doubling down on planting the spy, or spies, or agent provocateurs, whatever you want to call them. Clapper is now doubling down onto this thing, saying that it is a standard investigative practice. The New York Times is reporting that Clapper is doubling down on planting the spy into the Trump campaign as standard investigative practice. Oh, really? So we regularly plant spies into political campaigns? Was there a spy planted into the rotten Reverend Clinton campaign, Mr. Clapper? Clapper also says, according to the New York Times, that he did not know about the informant. That's got to be another lie. So first they deny it happened. Then they say it's a good thing that they planted the spy in there. And then it's now standard practice. Standard investigative procedure. Standard practice. Oh yeah, we plant spies and agent provocateurs in all of these political campaigns. and try to orchestrate deep state coups. Mostly, we do it overseas in foreign governments, but the case this particular time called for us to do it here in the United States, because now there's way too many cameras to splatter somebody's brains all over Dealey Plaza. The bug-eyed fool, Adam Schiff, says that the Department of Justice has a pro-Trump bias. Unrecuse yourself, Mr. Sessions. Unrecuse yourself. You recuse yourself because you're worried about the political fallout. You're worried that people say it was a political witch hunt for you to actually do a serious investigation. Now, maybe behind the scenes, maybe Sessions is playing possum. Maybe behind the scenes he's got this all figured out. And we're going to find out when it all's finished up that Sessions actually was right on the ball, that he was just doing it in a very covert, sneaky way, that he had a better plan, a better way to handle it. I hope to God that turns out to be true, because I generally like Jeff Sessions. I disagree with him on a lot of things, but I think he's a decent individual. I don't think he's, a bad guy. I could be proven wrong in that, but at this point I'm still kind of like a lot of you. I'm kind of wavering on the fence with Sessions. I don't know what to think. But now the excuse that he's had for all this time, that he didn't want to look like a political witch hunt, he's going after Trump's political opponents, he thought that handling it this way he wouldn't have to worry about the attacks. But as you can clearly see, it doesn't matter whether or not you play it that way or not, Mr. Sessions, because they're going to come out and attack you anyway and accuse you of these things anyway. So now it is time to unrecuse yourself, Mr. Sessions, and fire Rodentsteen. Or maybe you should leave him on the payroll and demote him, move him down to the mailroom, and start interrogating him before he joins John O'Brien, deep shit, no shit Christopher Sherlock Ray, and the rest in the bubble bath. Finally, Stefan Halper, the fat man. And by the way, I know what some of you are thinking. That's not really nice, Mike. You shouldn't be criticized. I know he's a spy and he was doing some bad things and this type of thing. But really, I mean, a lot of people have a weight issue. It could be a thyroid problem. It could be this, could be that. And you're kind of, it's not really nice to make fun of him because he's overweight, he's obese, he's relatively rotund, he's very spherical, his rotundity is obvious. But no, that's not the origin of why I'm using that term. Let me give you the origin of that term. Back in the 1940s, there was a very popular radio program, according to my grandfather, that they used to gather around the radio in the 1940s and listen to this radio program. And it was based around a detective and his associate who would get on the radio every couple nights a week, and they would have this crime story, and this detective and his associate would solve the crime. Very good radio shows, I understand. I can't remember the name of it. He told me, but it's been a long time. But one of the more popular episodes they did revolved around a mysterious character who was the key to solving this particular crime, and he was described as the Fat Man. Look, coming out of the drugstore, it's the Fat Man. So they had to try to figure out this mystery character, the Fat Man, because he was the key to solving this particular crime. This episode was so popular, it was later made into a movie, black and white back in those days, an actual film, and they took this kind of episode of this radio show and turned it to a full-length story. And it was like a feature film, black and white, late 1940s Hollywood. So that is the reference to the Fat Man, because Mr. Halper clearly is, he could use, a few of those Jenny Craig shakes or something. He could do a few laps around maybe he could do some laps around the bathtub over there, and maybe he'll contemplate taking some cyanide. But anyway, that is the origins of why I'm using the term Fat Man, because in that particular case, he was the key to solving. He was this mysterious character. They had to figure out who he was. He was the key to solving the crime, as very much is in this case getting Mr. Halper, Stefan Halper, to tell us about what he was up to is a big key in solving this gigantic conspiracy of which he played a major role. Newsweek, which was, I believe, just purchased for $1 a few months back. You could have been the owner of Newsweek for $1. Newsweek is now in the process of trying to find Mr. Halper, the fat man. Question is he officially dead, or is he playing dead? And it appears that he's been doing this for a long time. Apparently someone tipped off Halper and he has gone underground. Or maybe something else worse is at play. This is Newsweek. This is Newsweek saying this. Is he officially dead or plain dead? Someone tipped him off and maybe he's gone underground. Or maybe something worse is at play. Now we know that the CIA does not like loose ends. Everyone knows that sometimes they have an agent who performs a task knowing good and well that if it goes badly, he's probably going to bite the dust. It's part of the code in the CIA. They tie up loose ends. The fat man, Stefan Halper, is a loose end. It appears, according to Newsweek, that he has not been seen in 3 months. They suspect that he may be in Asia, if he's still breathing. They're asking the question, is he officially dead or just plain dead? Not me. I'm not the one asking that question. I'm reporting to you that Newsweek is asking the question, is he officially dead or plain dead? Has he gone underground? Huh, that's a loaded term. Has he gone underground? Yeah, he's probably achieved room temperature. Maybe he took that cyanide tablet. Maybe that's why Brennan is freaking out. Maybe they only had one to share between them. Tiny bubbles in my beer. Alrighty, I don't recommend that you do that, but if you're really bored, yes, you can. They call that, someone who does that, a verberful. If you sit in the bathtub with a box of Mr. Bubble, fart and bite the bubbles, you are a verberful. So, Mr. John O'Brennan, maybe in addition to everything else, a verberful. With that glass of champagne and that cyanide tablet, can he split it 4 ways with Mr. Ray, Mr. Clapper, and the Fat Man? They didn't know they would be having a cyanide party. This thing's getting ugly, my friends. I will be back with you in a couple hours, probably somewhere around 2:30 in the afternoon, somewhere in that range. I will be uploading a second video this Wednesday, and we'll deal with this incredible article by Cheryl Atkinson, where she goes in essentially and discovers the root origin of the Russia-Trump narrative. Absolutely fascinating. You want to tune into that. I'll see you back here in a couple of hours. In the meantime, tiny bubbles.